have my 300 TD wagon up in the air, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about the self-leveling suspension in these Mercedes wagons. It's called the SLS suspension. That's self-leveling suspension. That's what that means. So if you hear me talk SLS, you'll at least understand what I'm trying to say. You know, this is an amazing system, and it works very well, but we have had numerous wagon owners over the years say, you know, I don't want to spend the money to fix it, so do you have something that I can convert it? Just convert it to conventional springs. Because remember, the original system has a strut. It has a hydraulic strut in the back, which will raise and lower depending upon the weight you add to the car. And that's why these wagons are so nice as a universal type vehicle. You can load up 1,000 pounds in the back, and because of that hydraulic self-leveling feature, it'll raise right up and it won't bottom out. So we started playing, due to these numerous requests about 10 years ago, I started playing around with doing a conversion. And this is the first conversion I did about 10 years ago, and now I've lived with it for 10 years, so I can kind of report back to you. And we were actually selling these conversion kits. They required a number of different components, but we stopped selling them. And you probably say, well, Kent, why did you stop? Because people were disappointed in the results. Even though you would tell them, this is not going to give you a wagon suspension. This isn't going to give you the performance and handling that the original suspension did. People would say, oh, well, it's cheap. I want to do it. I don't want to spend the money. And then they would say, oh, no, I tried to put a lot of weight in the back of the car and it bottomed out, and I'm not happy. So, no, we don't sell a conversion kit anymore, okay? And I personally don't recommend it. If you're going to own a wagon, if you don't want to fix the hydraulic suspension in the rear of a 300 TD wagon, then I recommend you sell the wagon and get a sedan. Okay, get a sedan and then you won't have to deal with it. But if you want the features of that self-leveling suspension and the load carrying capacity that it can give you, then I would highly encourage you to fix the self-leveling suspension. We offer overhaul kits for the pump. We have a lot of different, the struts and the accumulators I know are not inexpensive, but once you get the system working properly again and you get those old worn out components replaced, it can be very reliable. But I kind of wanted to show you. First, I'm going to show you what we did to make the conversion, and then I'll come back and conclude by giving you my, should I say, results of what I found out, how well this works as a conversion. Okay, if you look right up in here, you can see that the spring and the shock look similar to what you would see on a sedan. But for those of you who are familiar with the W123 chassis, if you look closely, you'll notice something's a little bit different. Take a look at the thickness of the spring. Yes, that's right. That is not a stock 123 sedan rear spring. When you remove the hydraulic suspension, you're going to have to compensate somewhat by installing a much beefier, heavier spring. So the car will not bottom out, because once again with a station wagon you tend to load aft of the rear axle, and that's why you have that bottoming problem that you might run into. So this is a spring out of a 126 sedan. Okay, that'll go up in here. At the top, we have the thickest rubber bushing that you can buy. There are 3 different thicknesses of spring bushings, and that bushing is the thickest one that you can purchase, okay? And then right down the center is a heavy duty, not a comfort, but a heavy duty 123 sedan shock absorber. Now I should warn you, it's not a straight bolt-in. You have to make some modifications to the plate at the top where the old strut bolted in. The shock absorber is not going to bolt in straight away. You're going to have to go in there and get some washers and some special gizmos that you'll have to make to try to get the top of this heavy-duty Bilstein sedan shock absorber attached to the top of the area where the original strut was attached. So that's kind of an overview. Once you do that, the car will sit actually above level, empty. And it actually has quite good handling performance. In some ways, I like the handling even better than the hydraulic suspension if the car's empty. But what if the car's not empty? So what are the pluses to this conversion, in my humble opinion? Well, number one, it's maintenance free. Okay, I don't have to worry about fluid levels. I don't have to worry about fluid flushes every few years. I don't have issues with the leveling valve being finicky and maybe the car sagging down in the back. So it's definitely, as far as maintenance, that's a real plus. And once again, as I said earlier, I like the way the wagon handles. I mean, you know, if you've driven a 300 TD wagon, even with a properly operating suspension, it has a certain feel in the rear end that feels different. Because once again, those hydraulic struts are leveling the car, and then those nitrogen spheres are giving the cushioning ride. So it doesn't have the ride feel that a good sedan has. And when you add these heavy springs and heavy-duty shocks, when this wagon is empty, I like the way it handles under heavy cornering. I really do. But that's kind of where the pluses end, okay? This wagon here, by the way, has a third seat, and I can't use the third seat. That's right. If I put a couple people back there, or if I put two big heavy adults in the back seat and threw 500 pounds in the trunk, or the back end, I've got kind of a problem. This thing will settle right down, and it will bottom out. It's going to take about 300-400 pounds back in the back there to get it. So if you intend to use your wagon for hauling capacity, if you just need it for bulk, where you need to put a bunch of lightweight, heavy stuff, maybe you have a business that has light camera equipment. Okay, let's say you're hauling a lot of camera equipment. That's okay, but if you're trying to haul a lot of people, and if you have a third seat, don't expect that third seat. Since the conversion, I've never used a third seat. Okay, so that's the other side of it. So I think you can understand now why you know, we just don't sell this kit anymore. The other problem was, if you're going to make this conversion and you don't have self-leveling, you better make sure that the subframe bushings here are in good condition, and that the center rear end mount rubber is in good condition, because if you don't and you install these standard springs and shocks, you're going to have a wagon that's sitting down in the back. And this was another issue. People would say, well, I installed your kit and my wagon's sitting too low. Well, that's because everything else is worn out. So there, you know, when you have a self-leveling suspension, it'll kind of compensate for some of the wear in the subframe bushings and that center pumpkin rubber mount. But when you eliminate that, all those parts are going to have to be replaced too. So in the end, if you're rebuilding everything, you know, you're going to have to make the decision. Now, since we don't recommend the conversion, I'm going to repeat, please don't email us and say, well, can you give us more information on this conversion? I'm not going to do it, okay? I apologize. I'm just not going to do it because we don't recommend it. But I wanted to show you this because I know other people have done this. There are obviously forums that talk about doing this. I just wanted to show you the conversion I did 10 years ago and the results after driving this car. So, in conclusion, you have to make the call yourself, but if you do decide you want to pull out the original SLS system on your 300 TD wagon, keep in mind you're kind of on your own out there. And we won't be able to give you, you know, obviously you could probably buy the shocks and the springs and stuff from us, but please, we can't give you any support or further recommendation on this conversion. I highly recommend that you keep your SLS system intact and repair it properly.